I was first introduced to a real frittata during my stay and work experience in Italy. Now, a frittata is basically the same thing as an omelet. It's just not rolled up and flipped over on itself. It uses egg, vegetables, oftentimes even cheese, and it's put into a pan and just set into the oven and enjoyed that way. Now, obviously, on the OMS diet, the eggs are going to be a problem, the cheese are going to be a problem. And so I've come up with a way of making a frittata completely OMS compliant and really rather delicious. I think it's a good idea. You can use any sort of vegetable you want, but it's a good idea when starting to make sure your vegetables are completely cooked and cooled. And if you're using anything like a green vegetable, in this case we're using spinach, just make sure you give it a real good squeeze so that there's no water remaining. We've got some herbs prepared. We have our egg white over here, and now we're going to show a way of making an OMS compliant egg yolk to go with the egg white. Now, an egg yolk is basically just going to be water, protein, and fat. So figuring out the percentages on an egg yolk, it's really rather simple to create something that emulates that function. So what I've done is we're going to start with a little bit of fat. We're just going to give it, now I'm making the equivalent of 3 eggs, so I'm going to give it 4 grams per egg. So that's 12 grams of oil. And it's really important weighing this bit out and getting it on a scale. For the protein, I'm using a silken tofu. So this is a real soft tofu. Don't use anything that's a harder version or it's not going to mix so well. And so we're going to just get that right in with our oil. We're going to use water because a certain amount of an egg yolk is water. So it's roughly 8 grams per egg. And so we're just going to get all of that water right in there. And now to help with any leavening that might occur with an egg, we're going to give it some baking powder. So we're just going to get that right in there. We're going to give that just a little mix, just to blend everything together really. Now I like giving my OMS safe egg yolk a little color. So you can use something like dried mustard, you can use turmeric, but just not a whole lot, just enough to give it a little bit of a yellow color. So I'm going to drop about a teaspoon in there. We're going to just mix that together. Try to get any lumps that may have formed with that egg out. Now you can take your egg whites at this point, pour them in, and that's the equivalent of 3 egg whites. And each egg white weighs around 35 grams. So we're going to get all of that in, mix it up nicely, and there you have it. Our egg is ready. And what's really important with this recipe is make sure everything is prepared ahead of time. Now, before we start getting the frittata into the pan, we want to make sure this pan is very, very hot. So we're going to go over, we're going to get it into the oven, but first, we're going to give it a coating of oil. Now it may look like a lot, and in this case it probably is. We're going to make sure we smooth it around, and we're going to drop some salt on here. All I'm trying to do is actually just season the pan. Before we actually cook the frittata, we're going to clean all that oil out, so it's not anything to really worry about. So we're going to go ahead and just pop that right into the oven. Great, we got our pan in the oven. It's getting nice and hot. We'll let it sit there for about 5 minutes or so. Then we'll finish everything up. About 15 minutes, we'll be enjoying a piping hot, very fresh, OMS safe egg white frittata. Good, now we're just gonna finish up. We're gonna get the frittata mix done. And that's just a matter of, let's get all those vegetables in there. Get some, just enough to really make a nice full frittata. Those are some red peppers and some onions. We have some cooked mushrooms we're going to put in there. We'll drop some cooked zucchini in here. And if you want, you can add a little bit of cooked spinach. Just put everything in here. Get a little bit of herbs. Chopped up herbs of any kind is fine. I'm using chervil and tarragon. It's a very nice mix with eggs. And to give it a little bit of a cheesiness, we'll use a little bit of nutritional yeast in here. Just enough, about a spoonful or so, and that's just enough to give it a slight taste. Mix everything together. You don't want to whip it too much. Just mix it together. Make sure it's seasoned. Just going to put a little bit of salt in. That should be plenty. And there you go. Frittata mix is ready. All we need to do now is go get our hot pan. Got our very hot pan here. Just a little tip, if you're working with a pan that's coming out of an oven, always make sure you have a towel on the handle and keep it there, just in case you walk away to tell someone else it's hot. Now, we need to get rid of all of that oil that's in here, so we're just going to wipe it out. That's all that's necessary. Right, no turning back at this point. All we got to do is get all of this mixture right into our hot pan, and we're ready to go. You should hear it sizzle and almost start to set immediately as we get it in there. Give it a little move around. Get that nice little sound coming from the sides. And that egg white omelet is almost starting to set right away. We're going to get this immediately into the hot oven from the top heat. There you go. That'll take about 10-12 minutes or so in the oven. Should be nice and golden brown on top. The frittata should rise up a little bit, and we should be ready to dig in. There we have it. Lovely frittata, fresh out of the oven. Looks wonderful. It's risen nicely, and all we really need to do now is just enjoy it warm. And so let's just go ahead and eat it. I like just getting stuck in here with a nice spoon. No sticking at all. Just a nice, lovely frittata, fresh out of the oven. Really nice smell of aromas coming here. And just a delight to eat. Very light. Great afternoon snack or lunch. It's piping hot, which is really the best way to enjoy it. OMS safe frittata, under an hour.